What's good, guys? Welcome to my podcast, Snakz Thoughts. I say again, welcome to my podcast, Snakz Thoughts. And what is my topic for this Friday? Well, guys, my topic for this Friday pertains to Trump, the United States, and Greenland, okay? I would title it Why the Rules Change: Greenland, Taiwan, Ukraine, and Power. I say it again. Why the rules change: Greenland, Taiwan, Ukraine, and power. Now, we all know that the powers that be have interests. You know, states have interests. Um, Power has logic behind it, and morality is often applied after decisions, not before. I'm not talking about right or wrong today. I'm talking about how power explains itself. Now, obviously, I'm quite sure many of you have heard about Trump and the United States' interest in taking over Greenland. And obviously, one of the main reasons that they want to take Greenland is because of its strategic position as it relates in the Arctic and North America. And what it does, whichever superpower gains control of Greenland, they gain a massive advantage in terms of access to North America, and also strategically, should any combat or war efforts, anything like that go down. Also, Greenland also has certain resources, certain precious metals. You know what I'm saying? Energy resources. And so there's a strategic advantage to, I'll say, annexing or colonizing Greenland. Now, I know to probably many of you, even myself, this does seem like the United States is a bit hypocritical. I'm quite sure you know that obviously China has an interest in taking Taiwan back. They want Taiwan back. But when China hinted to the world at taking Taiwan back, then the United States, the West, and there were others that pitched a big stink and a fuss over China threatening to take Taiwan back. Then you understand, you have Putin with Russia, wanting to annex, or he wants Ukraine back, and he did not want Ukraine joining NATO, because if Ukraine joins NATO, then that gives the United States access to set up bases and also to put up certain missiles and silos along Russia's border. And that was the reason why Putin had jumped, on Ukraine, because he did not want them becoming part of the NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty, organization. He didn't want them becoming a part of that, because that's inroads. No, everybody knows that the United States is the head of NATO. Just tell it like it is. They're the big dog. Just like China's the big dog with the BRICS. China and then Russia. But he wants Ukraine back. So all of a sudden now the United States has its interests. We already have seen in the last 2 weeks how they went in to Venezuela, and now they're going to annex and colonize that, and swapping out a regime for, I'll say, a puppet regime, that will serve the United States and the West's interests. And now all of us, you're threatening Iran, to jump into Israel's fight, which Iran is part of the BRICS nations. And then now all of a sudden you want to make Greenland like a 51st or 52nd state. And I thought Puerto Rico was already our 51st state. But you're trying to take a whole country and make it, a state of the United States, or as they say, negotiate, from Denmark, trying to get it from Denmark, I mean, this is looking like the, with Lewis and Clark, the Louisiana Purchase, you know. Except Trump is the one that's doing it with elite powers that be that are behind him. You know, he's not doing this himself. He's just the face of it. But there's elite and strategic powers that are behind him and that are obviously putting him, you know, and pushing him up, you know, to this. He's just the face of it, you know. But it does seem hypocritical. And I made a short video where I talked about how the United States and the West, you know, how they survive. You know, it's no secret that the United States and the West is losing in dominance. You know what I'm saying? They are losing dominance and preeminence in the world. And it seems like there is a desperation to hold on to power. You know, the BRICS nations in Africa, I believe, really set it off. You know, it really set it off. You know, when China, you know, formed the BRICS, it's set to, I guess you could say, maybe undermine United States currency and power. You know, and with China and the BRICS deciding to make up their own currency, which will be backed, you know, with a gold standard. And that put a lot of pressure on the U.S. dollars, you know, and so those dollars now are starting to that U.S. dollars, which is basically it's just a promissory note, you know what I'm saying? Basically, it's basically just a debt or IOU, and now it's starting to, those dollars are coming back to the United States. And the United States, obviously, to keep the dollar strong, you want the world to be using your currency so it makes it stronger. But it's not backed by anything, you know, except I guess the United States promise or its word is no longer backed by gold. You know, once Nixon took it off the gold standard and they started going crazy, printing money, you know, like there's no tomorrow. And you've over or hyper inflated it, you know, and it's just a matter of time. And the United States, they failed. You know what I'm saying? I'll say it again. They failed. They failed to go in and develop Africa and also develop Latin America. Those were two strategic posts that the United States sorely missed. And had they invested in Africa and Latin America, the United States would be light years ahead. They left the door open, you know. And China and Russia were always you know, superpowers, you know, but the United States had gained an advantage, and they lost that advantage. China, you know what I'm saying, wisely, you know, they went on and started investing in Africa, and now Africa as the continent, you know, which you have many different countries in Africa, but technology and digital assets are gonna catch Africa up overnight, and the same thing is gonna happen with Latin America. Technology and digital assets in the BRICS are gonna cause an acceleration in Latin America as well, and as a result, because the United States got lazy, they outsourced too much. You know, they outsourced corporations, outsourced their labor supply. You know, they stopped manufacturing in the United States, and China took up the mantle and now produces 95% of the world's goods. And they're ahead in artificial intelligence. You know, and then they establish the BRICS. You know, then they're developing Africa. You know, so that gives them a significant advantage. And the United States and the West, they are losing power, and they fear this is an empire that is, I would say, on the decline, and they're trying to hold on, you know, to their power to the point where now they're just outright doing hostile takeovers. They straight up, you know what I'm saying, seeking to either take over nations or either buy, you know what I'm saying, try to buy them. You know? But yeah, but you're seeing what power does. What best suits them. Power has its own morality. You know, um, you know, sovereignty. Is sacred until it isn't. Nations say borders matter. Yeah. But history shows borders change when power allows it. Ukraine, anyone? Um, China possibly taking over Taiwan. United States, Venezuela, anyone? Possible acquisition of Greenland. Um, the language just changes security, stability, and strategic interests. Um, Ladies and gentlemen, this is realism and it's not ideology. What is the difference, between taking and preventing? When rivals act, such as China and Russia, it's called aggression, and the United States. When allies act, Britain, Germany, Canada, for the West, for the East, China, Russia, Iran, North Korea. You get my drift, guys? When allies act, it's framed as necessity. Same action, different label. Um, Power versus principles. Principles are often tools, not anchors. They are applied selectively. And as you see, the United States is flexing its muscle and applying its levers of power. And in actuality, they're just flat out now doing it raw and in the open, and also with very little diplomacy. You know, they're telling China and trying to tell Xi Jinping and trying to tell Putin, don't be the bully, and stop picking on these smaller countries and stop taking their milk money. But then you have the United States, they going around punking Venezuela, and now they trying to punk Greenland. Basically, hey, give me your milk money or give me your cookies. They're doing the same thing, just on different fronts. And there's a saying that goes, "What's good for the goose is good for the gander." But it's like, and I'm not making accusations. This is just it's a power grab. It's just the way it works, But looking at it from maybe an objective perspective, you know, um, they can do it, but other nations can't. And as you see the desperation of the West, feel like as they're losing a grip, and the United States empire is losing control with China on the rise and the other BRICS nations on the rise. The United States has become, I would say, antsy or anxious, and you're starting to see them become more aggressive. The United States has not been this aggressive in a minute. But I mean, if you look at what was it, when Saddam Hussein went and took over Kuwait's oil fields, and the United States immediately responded in brutality, obviously because of the oil. And in Venezuela, same thing is because of oil. I mean, they may frame it as drugs and narcotics and weapons trafficking, but the real deal, if that's all it was about, then the United States um, could stop them from trafficking drugs and weapons, and you could have left the country alone. You could have just basically, you know, um, shut our borders from receiving, either their goods. You could have put tariffs on them, or you could have had task force, that could handle that. That could stop the drugs and weapons from coming into our borders if that's what they really wanted to do. But if a country, in which Trump has called Latin America, and this is how some of the West feels, that Latin America was basically considered worthless. He called it S.O. countries. That's why they never really invested in Latin America, like they should have. They never thought it'd be worth anything until now you see China on the rise, and China is moving in, making deals, and they see China and Russia, saying swooping in for the kill, and they see themselves losing power. So now all of a sudden they're interested in it. But you're so interested in this country that not that you have to outrightly you got to take it over. Really? I'm just saying, guys. Connect the dots and think about it. And this right here is not. It's not going to be the last. The United States right in the West right now, they feel threatened. And when power is threatened, and when power gets anxious, or if it gets antsy, it begins to act, and they begin to act. And flex outright. So you're gonna see more. It's just a matter of who's next. This is just the beginning. But they're trying to ensure that they have a strong foothold in Latin America. Now, obviously, I believe that obviously the U.S. and the West already strategically, I think they have a strong foothold and influence on Argentina already. That's from what I understand. But this right here is far. This is just the beginning. And you're gonna see some moves going down with the BRICS nations. Don't think that China and Russia, are done. They just get this is just getting started. You know, this is just getting started. But moving on. Now, the strongest nations. Supposedly they don't break rules; they redefine them. That's what it's called when world superpowers decide to change the players or the pieces on the chessboard. They wrote the rules, they made the game, and therefore, when they decide, when they see if they feel that they are threatened and that they're losing at the game, because they made it, they have the right to change the rules midstream. So you could be. It's like playing somebody in a game of Monopoly, right? And you have the rules. You pass go, you collect your 200. You got your get out of jail free cards, community property, or what I'm saying, municipal property, or you could have taxes in it. Well, that's kind of with the superpowers. If they write the rules of the game and they feel that they losing, they can midstream, change the rules. They can come out and be like, you know what, we're losing right now, and so therefore, you are not allowed to pass go and collect your $200. They do stuff like that, How do they do it? They do it through laws. They utilize politicians. They do it through systems, financial systems. Think about it. They take. I didn't say borrow. They take resources. Like, where's all the gold for the United States at in Fort Knox? You understand what I'm saying? Where is it? That much gold just don't up and disappear. So that means that somebody moved it, and somebody's got that portion of gold. You understand what I'm saying? They change the game as they see fit. When all of this, stimulus money was given out, where'd all those trillions of dollars go? The regular rank and file person didn't get it during COVID. They didn't get, most of the regular citizens didn't get that much money from a stimulus check, but yet and still, supposedly trillions of dollars were given out. Where'd it go? And look at banking, financial institutions. When a lot of times when they're failing, look how many bailouts they get. And anyway, I ain't gonna call no names, but and I'm not hating on it, but they talk about people on welfare. I mean, we have some rich people, that all they do is get government contracts and government funding. But I ain't gonna call, and I'm not hating. You know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna call no names. You know what I'm saying? Because I like them. You know what I'm saying? So, but y'all get the gist of what I'm saying. But they do it, through laws, and then also through military might. If they have to, they will flex on even on their own citizens. I mean, um, some may disagree with what ICE is doing, and some do agree with what ICE is doing. Um, I don't know. You know, I think some of it may be justified, but I think some of it can be a bit overboard. You know what I'm saying? I definitely don't condone, citizens or even those that are being detained or deported. I don't detain any human being being hurt. I'm quite sure you guys know what happened in Minneapolis, and then there was some other person that got, that ICE, wound up shooting in the leg and stuff like that, But they can declare martial law. You know what I'm saying? Look what happened with COVID, how fast they shut everything down so that they could destroy the middle class. Central bank digital currencies. There are some institutions in the United States right now. Some do not accept, they don't accept cash anymore. It's straight digital. They only do card or digital only. You know, so you can't get certain services using cash anymore. They are phasing it out. So obviously, with those businesses that do that, they have to have somebody behind them that's probably paying them to do that, so they can institute this new system. I mean, connect the dots, guys. You know what I'm saying? We just getting started, man. This is the beginning of 2026. you know and there is more of this coming, and like I said, I expect to see more coming from the United States in the West, and I definitely see it coming from China and Russia, what I'm saying, in the East. What I'm saying, we are just getting started. What I'm saying, there's going to be a lot of action going down, and you know um I don't want to say World War III, but if things get antsy enough, and powers that be that get into it, then what happens is the chessboard will be divided, and then nations have to pick whose side, who they going back and who they riding with, But when power, becomes desperate, and empires feel that they're on their last legs, probably the last thing you begin to see is them flex militarily. That's when you start seeing them coming out with their big guns, and they just start using their military might, to take it, or they got to duke it out, to see, who's going to be the new leader or the ruler. And then after they duke it out, whoever wins, they, come to negotiation settlements, and then the one that wins is the one that decides what the new rules are going to be. And sooner or later, all of this is going to have to come to a head. The United States, Russia, China, all of this, it's not, it can't keep going at the rate it's going. Attacking the U.S. dollar, you can't do that to the United States and the West. You know what I'm saying? Because the United States, they will duke it out. Over the U.S. dollar. They will duke it out, but we just getting started. Now, why does all of this matter? Okay. Obviously, citizens are told stories to make decisions feel moral. Yeah, right. They always feed us, the regular citizens, that nonsense, to try to justify what they're doing. What the U.S. is bum rushing. They starting to do hostile takeovers. They forget the rules. We know what the rules say, but we gonna do what we want to do, And if anybody got something to say about it, bring it on. And the crazy part about it is that China and Russia will answer, and I foresee something coming to a head. You can't fool with Putin and Russia, and you definitely can't fool with China, But you got three superpowers, and it look like they are on a collision course. At some point in the future. I mean, and it be maybe it's close. It's real close because there's tension, and is heating up, and all the players, they have their own self-interest, The United States don't want China taking Taiwan back. They got a lot heavily in the West also have heavy invested interest in Taiwan. The same thing with Russia and Ukraine. He don't want NATO, on his back door, and the United States on his back door. It's like, so they can try to surround him, and then if stuff goes down, then they can pop off on him, and they're within range, and he's letting them know, hey, I'm not having it. I'm not having it. But eventually, this stuff is going to come to a head. Eventually, I see China, Russia, and the United States eventually going to blows. Finally getting into it when there's nowhere else for the power to go, and it's going to be a knockdown, drag out fight. It is coming, and it is coming soon. At the rate things are going. But China wound up getting a drop. On the United States, they got the drop on them. And with the BRICS nations. And with China as the lead, and then you got Russia the close second, you ain't stopping the BRICS. You ain't stopping the BRICS, man. It's technology alone is the biggest game changer, and it's going to accelerate things. So, what's going to happen? United States is going to have to share the chessboard. You can't have it all to yourself. Yeah, but let me continue on. Obviously, what's complex becomes simplified. Nuance disappears. People, like you and me and others, at every level end up arguing narratives instead of structures. What realism, actually sounds like. And this is not being cynical, or naive, the reality of it, yep. Power does exist. The powers that be, they have interests. So interests do exist. Hypocrisy exists, as you're seeing that. All nations say one thing and they do another. Understanding this, say it does matter more than denying it. It is what it is. And guys, I'm just gonna close with this. What I'm saying here, this isn't about choosing sides. It's about understanding the game being played, because confusion benefits power, not people. It benefits power, not people. But this is all I have on this one. Just something to think of, guys, and to reflect upon. And we, as the regular citizens of our countries and our nations, we are in the middle of it, but the big dogs, are playing chess on the chessboard, and they are beginning to shift and move pieces around. And technology like AlphaGo has begun to accelerate things. But that's all I have on this one. And thank you guys for listening. The name of this podcast is Snakz Thoughts, SNAKZTHOUGHTS. Snakz Thoughts. And you can find this podcast on Spotify. You can find it on Spreaker. You can find it on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, SoundCloud, Radio PM, and host of other social media outlets. And so I want to thank you guys for listening. I also have my YouTube channel, Eric Broadus YouTube, EricBroadus, or EricBroadusYouTube.com. So go over to my YouTube channel as well. Turn on all notifications, smash the bell to become a subscriber. Hit the hype button to hype the video. Hit the like or unlike button to like or unlike the videos. Either way, leave a comment, guys. Leave a comment. I love to hear what you think. What are your thoughts on this? Also I have a Rumble channel, Snakz123, SNAKZ123, on Rumble. So please subscribe to Rumble. Hit the bell, hit the like or unlike button to also like the videos over there. Likewise, leave a comment. Love to hear, what you think. And lastly, I have the 5 best weight loss products, and they are weight loss and nutrition products. Next to God, the next best thing that you have is your health, guys. Your health is your wealth. So please, you get one body, you get one life. Take care of it, and it will take care of you. But guys, join Snakz Thoughts. Share it. Snakz Thoughts, everybody's YouTube. Snacks123 on Rumble, and the 5 best weight loss solutions. Get the products and share it and push it out, guys. Share it. All of these, Lord. All of these. You know, with friends, family, frenemies, enemies, rats, dogs, bats, and goats. But that's all I have on this one, guys. Peace out. See you soon. Later.